Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Town of Port Royal Council meeting, but we're starting with a public hearing. This public hearing is the purpose of the, well, Van, you go ahead.
Well, we just want to introduce Jessica Daly. She's with the Low Country Council of Governments. She's here to give you an overview of the Community Development Block Grant Program and kind of discuss the needs assessment of the town. Is that correct?
That's right.
Perfect.
Okay. So this is our annual needs assessment that we do in preparation for applying for Community Development Block Grant funding. So the program year starts April 1, and go ahead, next slide. A little PSA, because this is HUD funding, fair housing is the law. Obviously, Port Royal and Low Country Council of Governments are committed to affirmatively furthering fair housing. If anybody feels like they've been discriminated against in the sale and rental of housing and brokerage services, or any real estate transaction, they can contact Low Country Council of Governments, and the number is on the slide right there in red. So,
Excellent.
next slide. So, Community Development Block Grant funding in South Carolina is passed through the State Department of Commerce, which effectively allows you to pair it with other federal funds if you have that opportunity. And it exists primarily to help people with persons of low to moderate income. And what that means is on the next slide. So we're looking at the bottom row there, and I know it's kind of hard for y'all to read. So we're talking about total household income. For a two-person household in Beaufort County, that would be two people making less than $55,500. For four people, they'd have to make less than $69,350. This is last year's housing numbers. They will change again around June. So, like I said, this is HUD funding. Go to the next slide. And our best guess is that there will be $19,740,854 for this program year. That should be finalized in the next few weeks. So that 19.7 is divided into three categories, the largest of which is community development. We also have business development and regional planning, but community development being the lion's share of the funding will be broken down into the next two slides. So, starting with community infrastructure is our spring round. That's water, sewer, drainage, roads. Port Royal's not going to be eligible this spring because you have too many successful applications. So we'll skip right over that. But darn, I know. So you should be eligible in the fall, we hope. So our fall round starts with community enrichment on the right there. It's $3 million statewide, but it offers a wide variety of opportunities to do streetscapes, for example, libraries, demolition, health clinics, public facilities, projects ranging from $50,000 to $750,000. Another fall round,
You want to go back?
yeah. Another fall round option is local priorities. They used to call this special projects. The goals for the program are economic development, public health and safety, quality of life, sustainability, resiliency, and narrowing the digital divide. The activities, meaning things that you can do to meet that goal, are historic preservation, innovation, energy conservation, parks, trails, and greenways. So that's $50,000 to $300,000. They've upped it from $150,000 this year.
Jessica, we'll be able to go to do that one.
Right, we hope.
Okay.
So we're counting on the other two projects to close, or move forward anyway. Now I'm ready for the next slide. And then the third fall round option is the neighborhood revitalization on the right here. It's $1 million, excuse me. It's $1 million statewide, but that's a concentrated neighborhood project. So you have a neighborhood that's low to moderate income, and you can do multiple activities, water, sewer, drainage, roads, but also sidewalks, cameras, things like that to enhance the safety of that neighborhood. The downside of that one is that you have to have a neighborhood plan to submit with the application request. So that would be something to be working on now if you have something like that in mind. You can either do that in-house, or a lot of consultants are ready to do that for you. And ready to go on the left-hand side has to be shovel-ready. You have to be ready to put it out for bid within 30 days, and it's usually something that's kind of an urgent need. You're looking at a disaster declaration or something like that. So all of these projects, though, have to meet a national objective, and there are only three to choose from. Primarily, they have to benefit low to moderate income people, but they could also aid in the prevention of slum and blight, or meet other urgent community needs, back to the declaration. and all have a 10% match requirement. So, next slide. And so that was all community development. Then we have business development, which is $2 million, primarily looking to create jobs, but also economic development for new and expanding businesses, providing essential goods and services in low to moderate income communities. So, and then we have regional planning, $500,000, and state technical assistance, and that is the rest of the funding. So projects located in opportunity zones get an additional 10 points. You have to have 175 points to be fundable, so that 10 points doesn't make a big difference, which is good because you're not in an opportunity zone at this point. So. Now, this is where we run into trouble. So you essentially have 3 slots. You have 2 slots full, but one of those grants can't be 30 months old. And because it was funded late in 2020, you have one that's 29 months old right now. So that's why you won't be eligible in the spring. Next slide.
But we'll be eligible in the fall,
We close that.
Potentially.
Yeah.
potentially.
You'll have
Yeah.
some design decisions to make that will have an impact.
Right. We have one that should certainly close, and the other one,
Yeah.
we don't know. You can have no more than one neighborhood, no more than one ready to go, and no more than one in the same area.
Right, just so that
Yep,
the sewer project should close without an issue. It's the streetscape project that's giving us the heartache at this point in time.
Correct.
What's happening.
Understood.
next slide. Okay, switching gears a little bit, those are projects that the town can apply for. Our Regional Home Consortium is something that individuals can reach out to the COG and apply for. Primarily, we're looking at residential rehab. It has to be owner-occupied housing, that has to be, the resident has to be income qualifying, and it has to be a stick-built house. We cannot address trailers. So, but if anybody's, I know there's so much need for trailers out there, but we can't help that. And so, next slide, I think that's, these are the goals of the Home Consortium. It does cover all 4 counties that we cover, and anybody is eligible to give us a call and apply. So, and that's it. So you can comment on an affordable housing plan between now and April. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you again for the information, and I know that we're right on that. And we've been talking about where we are.
Right.
We appreciate all the help you had in the past.
Sure.
Many reasons projects got slowed down over this time.
For sure. You had
We
2
would
projects
love for
funded
them
in-
to
Yeah,
consider that, because with supply chain issues, you just couldn't keep things moving along in the process you were
Right.
hoping for.
and they are aware of that, and so there is some leeway.
Right.
So,
Very good. And council, questions? Jessica?
No, thank you for the presentation.
And just so y'all know, we still, we are 52% LMI.
Right, so we still qualify.
Yes.
right. So anything with a townwide benefit, like the
Yes.
streetscape, would have to be,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be specific to a census block. If it's, like you said.
The sewer was a census block.
That was, yes.
a neighborhood, right?
Right.
We survey directly.
Every sewer, okay. But this, okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that'll close our public hearing, and now we're going to move into our regular Town of Port Royal February Council meeting. Our first order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody could please stand, face the flag, and I will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, please, sir.
Yes. Father, we thank you for this opportunity as we assemble before you, before our constituents. We thank you for the business that will be conducted on tonight as we pledge to build a stronger and more prosperous community by advocating for our civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of our town. We pray these in the name of Jesus, we pray, amen.
Amen. Good job, well done.
Thank you. Our next item of business is our approval of minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes in our packet. We have our public hearing from January 4th. We have our council workshop from January 4th. And we have our regular council meeting on January 11th. What's the pleasure of council?
Having read the minutes from January 4th, the council workshop from January 4th, and also the council meeting from January 11th, I move that we approve those minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion, deletions, or corrections to the minutes?
None noted.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Our next item of business is a presentation from Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. We welcome you and we thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Dan, thank you for having us. I'm Joe Mantua, General Manager at Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. Several people here joining me this evening. This is Brian Chemsack, who's our Chief of Plant Operations. He'll be presenting with me. Also, our Director of Engineering, Becca Bowyer, is here in case we have any project questions. Of course, our board member who's appointed from Port Royal, Dave Strange. Thanks, Dave, for being here, and Pam Flash, our Director of Public Affairs. So again, thank you all. We really appreciate the opportunity to do this State of the Authority update and really talk about a couple things, primarily some of the things we're dealing with, some challenges, and also how we're addressing future growth and some of the things that we're doing. So Van, next slide, please. So we'd like to talk about some general things about the State of the Authority, and then, as I mentioned, specifically get into some of the challenges we're dealing with in morning water demand peaks, which really is it's a seasonal temporary issue that is really in those warmer, drier months for the next couple years till we build our expansion of our water treatment plant. So we'll talk about that, and then how we're dealing with that on the long term, what we're doing in the short term, and how we're reaching out to the municipalities to help. We've done these briefings with just pretty much all the local jurisdictions, and again, we appreciate the opportunity to talk to you this evening. We'll also provide a list of several of the projects that we're doing in the Port Royal area, and then we close with any questions. Of course, feel free to ask as we go. We'll start just a quick overview. The authority covers a lot of ground in the two counties, over 750 square miles across the two counties. We've got the 8 wastewater facilities, 2 water treatment facilities, the 4 labs. We've got about 240 approved employees, currently at about 213, 215, serving a large number of folks here in the Low Country with over 65,000 connections and our 7 wholesale customers. So next slide, please. So I'm going to let Brian talk a little bit about our water and sewer system. So Brian, if you would.
How you doing? Just give you a little background on our water supply here at Beaufort Jasper. The Savannah River is our main supply of our drinking water. That river is transported by canal to one of our 2 water treatment plants. We have our Chelsea Water Treatment Plant, which was constructed in the 60s. That's located off Highway 170 at Snake Road. And our newer facility, the Perrysburg Water Treatment Plant, is located off of Perrysburg Road in Jasper County, only about a mile from the river itself. Out of those plants, we can treat 39 million gallons a day, and that feeds into a distribution network of over 1,500 miles of pipe, as you see there. Also associated with that, we have a number of booster pump stations to help keep the pressure at a higher amount as it reaches farther out into our system, and the elevated storage tanks you see around town and in the areas, as well as a number of hydrants and valves to help maintain the system. Next. Thank you. On the wastewater side, we treat about 10.5 million gallons of wastewater a day, and that comes from roughly our 43,000 customers. As the town knows, there are still some areas that are unsewered, but we have lots of areas with water, so that's why you see the difference between the number of water customers and sewer customers, is because there was a time when just getting water was the priority, and so those folks are still on septic tanks. Again, out of those 8 wastewater treatment plants, there's over 1,000 miles of pipe supporting bringing the wastewater back to the plants. The plants use a traditional treatment for wastewater, activated sludge, as well as tertiary treatment at some of our facilities that allows us to reuse the water for beneficial uses such as golf courses and irrigation of neighborhoods. Another thing we're doing on the green front is solar. So at our Port Royal facility located off Castle Rock Road, we have a solar array there. We also have one at our St. Helena site, and we're currently working on 2 more, one at Cherry Point and one in Hardyville.
Great. And so before I jump to the next slide, I do want to put some of those numbers in perspective for you, because as Brian mentioned, we have 39 million gallons of capacity at our 2 water plants. So what does that mean in terms of, one of the questions we get all the time is all this growth, development, how are we keeping up with that, how are we doing? So to put those numbers in perspective, Our current daily demand, like for example, this week, our average daily demand is probably about 17 million gallons a day. So when you think about it, we've got 39 million gallons of capacity. This time of year, capacity each day is about 17, 18 million gallons. It'll rise as the weather warms up and people start to irrigate. When we get into March, April, you'll probably see it in the low 20s up to the mid 20s. And then when we hit the warmer months in usually May, June, July are the areas where we have the biggest demand. That capacity goes all the way up to, could be even in the low to mid 30 million gallons. So you're starting to get closer to that capacity, but it's only in those few months of the year. And where it really becomes an issue is in the morning hours when everybody's using water in those early hours and the peak. So on the wastewater side, I wanted to just mention, so Brian said we have about a 10.5 million gallon per day flow. Well, and to put that in perspective, the plants have a combined capacity of about 19 million gallons. And so some of the things we'll be talking about in the future or upcoming here are some of the projects that we're working on. But before I get into that, just real quick, we want to emphasize that our mission starts with providing that quality water and wastewater services to our community. We try to do it in the most economical fashion that we can, also emphasizing safety and health and balancing all that together. And so when it's all said and done, we deliver that water and treat wastewater for about a penny a gallon, which is a pretty good deal when you're paying $3 for a bottle at the end market. So anyway, that's just a quick overview of our fiscal sustainability that we try to accomplish. Next slide, please. And so a couple things I mentioned, we've got a lot of growth in the area. We got a lot of capacity challenges. And so what do we do? What's our process? So we do a master planning process, which Becca and her team conduct every 5 years. The most recent one was completed just last year, and that looked out over over 20 years through 2045. We look at historical data, look at the system capacity, what the projections, and all that is put together to develop the capital plan, which you can see we're trying to invest in the future. So this current fiscal year, which runs through June 30th, we've got $66 million in our capital plan for new and existing projects. And then our 3-year plan, we've got almost $170 million allocated for projects over the next 3 fiscal years. So looking out in the future, some of the big projects we've got, and another question we always get is, well, you guys are collecting all these capacity fees. What are you doing with them? Well, if you see here, just 3 of the projects that we have. I mentioned the water plant expansion. Well, we've got that 39 million gallons of capacity. We're adding 15 million gallons. That expansion is a $52 million project. It's just about to start construction. We're actually doing a groundbreaking in 2 weeks. We've also got a new tank, which we're going to be adding 1.5 million gallons of storage in the Bluffton area. That's almost a $9 million project. And then on the wastewater side, we've got that 19 million gallons of capacity. In the Cherry Point area, we need to add some more capacity. We're adding about 3.75 million gallons to that plant, and that project is under design. But that's another $53 million. So if you just take those 3 projects right there, you're looking at about 100 and, see if my math is good, 114 million gallons, or excuse me, $1 million. Sorry, I got the gallons on the mind, but anyway.
The water gallons are on our mind.
So with that, as I said, there's a lot of growth. We're seeing about 3,000 new connections per year. And here's where we get into the challenge. Everybody wants a nice green lawn. Everybody wants the water. And so that's happening very fast. And as I mentioned, if you think about, we go from 17, 18 million gallons a day demand up to the 30s. That's all irrigation. That's people irrigating their lawns. And so with the new program, you can go to the next one, Dan. And this is where I'll let Brian talk about something that happened last year, which was one of the things that is helping push our plan here back in May. So Brian, why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Last year, we saw a new peak day in our system, and that's not unusual. We saw a new peak day the year before that and the year before that, because with growth comes new peak days. However, the one we experienced in May, it was 34.9 million gallons a day. It was quite a bit more than what we'd seen on the previous 2. And it's not that the system couldn't handle that peak day, but it really does stress the system when we're experiencing those. We went back and back calculated kind of the flow leaving our system. So the plants, the wells, our aquifer storage recovery sites, tanks, and we saw a peak demand in the morning from 6 to 7 that, if sustained, would have been a 55 million gallon day. Now, obviously, that morning demand doesn't sustain. Everybody's irrigation comes off. But that led us to kind of come out and raise awareness about this, because during those peak events and on those peak days, things that regularly happen, like fire hydrant testing, we can't do those on those peak days because we want to conserve all the water in the system. And if something unplanned were to happen, such as a line break, or if we had a pump go down at one of our booster pump stations during those peak stress times, it would actually amplify the problem and can cause pressure drops in our system, perhaps widespread outages, boil water notices. So that's one thing we're just trying to raise awareness about. And if you go to the next slide, we've got some long-term to short-term solutions on what we're doing to help solve that. Long-term is, of course, expanding our treatment capacity. And as Joe mentioned, that's going on. So with our Perrysburg facility, that will greatly help us meet those peak days in the future. However, that facility is not coming online until approximately 2025. So Joe's got some mid to short-term solutions.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll mention about that is, so, you know, I mentioned that when the plant was originally designed, it was laid out to be built out in 3 installments. So the first 15 million gallons was built. Then the second 15 million gallons is about to be built, and then somewhere down the road, we've actually got the space and the layout for another 15 million gallons. So we're going to be going from 39 million available to 54, and then somewhere down the road up to 69 million gallons. So as we look out into the future, we have plenty of capacity as we build that out. But next slide, please. So what we're really doing is, as Brian said, it's those morning peaks which are really our concern. And it's a few months of the year and a few days within those months when we really see those peaks that are challenging the system. So to address this, until we get our plant online, we're just asking residents not to water less, just water different times. Shift your patterns, water 3 days a week, which is what you really need. That's all you need. And our plan is, if you're odd numbered address, water Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and if you're an even, water Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And probably the most important piece of this, though, is don't water during those morning peak demand hours. So avoid that 3 to 9 time frame when we have the most pull on the system. And so we've developed stickers that we've been giving out to landscaping companies and to homeowners associations, and asking residents to put those stickers on their control panels. And again, we're not asking people to not water less, because we still need to sell water. But we're just saying let's not all water at the same time. So next slide, please. So again, you know, what we're asking of our municipal partners is just to be aware and help us spread that word about the plan, and wherever else we can educate the community. Our findings have been, once people know that this is an issue, they've been very helpful. They've been very willing to support our program, and so we just want to get the word out there. And you know, the last part there is we probably won't need to go to restrictions, but we just mention that because at some point, if it does really get to that point where people aren't participating and helping, you know, that would be a last ditch effort, but certainly something we would need to consider. Moving forward, and again, just to reiterate, 3 steps, odd, even schedule, you know, avoid those Mondays in the morning hours, and then put your stickers on. With that, before I go to questions, I know that I just wanted to share, there are 3 specific projects in the Port Royal area that are in our CIP that I would mention. First, starting with the galvanized waterline replacement program, Phase 1 and Phase 2. There's the launder covers at the Port Royal plant, and then, of course, the project you all mentioned previously, which is the Port Royal Sewer, CDBG, which you all are managing. So do you guys have any questions about what I presented? I know it's a lot in a short period, or the projects, certainly.
I've got a few. I've
Sure.
got 2 or 3 thoughts and a couple of questions. Tell me again that project, the galvanized what? The galvanized? I wasn't aware of that. Just, can you tell me a little bit about the galvanized pipe
Sure,
replacement?
Becca, you want to, yeah, we're doing this throughout the system where we've got older unlined cast and galvanized that we're replacing, but go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, so we've got a program, it's got 10 more years to the program to get rid of all the galvanized lines. Galvanized lines tuberculate on the inside, so they get the scaling, it's kind of a brownish color, breaks off, discolored water, those kind of things. So we're trying to replace those lines. It was an older type line that was used. So we have a plan where we've divided the service area up, and the original plan started out was the people who were having the worst calls with tuberculation and discolored water. So we kind of skipped around, and then from there on out, we have set it up to where it's more of a neighborhood or area-wide, so that all the streets in a certain area will get changed out at the same time. So we skip around, but right now we've got a project in Port Royal. It's wrapping up, or Port Royal area. The last few roads on it, Walnut's being tied in right now. There's a stretch on Paris Island Gateway, and then Berkeley Circle, and that will finish up this spring. And then we switch to another area, and then we'll come back to Port Royal in a couple of years as we continue this out. Like I said, it's been going on, I believe, 8 years now. We've got 10 more years to get it all done.
So the reason I brought this up, and I brought this up to Van, I had a call from one of my constituents recently, and it was about the sewer project, the gravity sewer project that's going on. And they were led to believe that maybe after the sewer project was done and the road was paved, that y'all were gonna come in and dig it up and put new pipes in the ground. So I wondered if somebody got their wires crossed, maybe this
So-
was the galvanized pipe or whatever.
Our
Maybe somebody
records-
wasn't,
our
so I was
records-
just wondering, asking for that reason. Somebody said, well, we were heard BJWSA is gonna come in after they pave this road and dig it all up again and put new pipe in the ground. I said, I don't know, but I'll ask. And I know Van looked into it, and I'm just wanted to hear it from y'all.
Sure.
Is that the case?
No, sir, it's a little miscommunication.
Okay.
So
Okay.
our maps right now show that area is all PVC. We
Okay.
had to look into it. There is a particular
Becca,
road that the
the-
sewer is on.
Actually, the streets we're talking about are all asbestos. There is a project on there that it's on the books, it's been on the books a long time.
The
But-
asbestos pipe replacement is different from the galvanized.
Correct. There is an
Correct.
asbestos pipe replacement
But
for the
there-
area
there's-
where the sewer project is.
That area is not
but it
labeled
will
as
not tear up the
galvanized.
roads. It will not tear up the roads.
So I can assure them that we're not gonna pave the road and come back and tear it up and put new pipe in there and pave it again.
Multiple years down the road, about the time the road needs to be resurfaced
Okay.
anyway.
I'm like, that
Remember-
doesn't sound like something we would do, but I'll ask.
We took those roads to put in the sewer project, so please communicate with us.
Yes,
Because we
so-
own them when this one's over, so that way, it was the only way we could get sewer into these neighborhoods now with what DOT, the restrictions they put on us, so we're here to support you in that way.
There was one section we looked into, maybe extending the water line and connecting two water lines. We got the quote from the contractor, and it was a little excessive. So we're discussing that with the contractor. And I believe in the meantime, there was some miscommunication that we weren't doing it now, that we would do it later. That's not the plan. It was just an improvement we could do while we were there.
Sure.
But if it works out that we can do it while the road is still open, we'll do it. But if it doesn't work out financially, then
Right.
we'll do it some other time when the road is
Understood.
open.
I just want to know, I just want to be
Yeah,
sure.
Best thing about that, Jerry, is when we took the roads, we have that control, and water does not need to go underneath the asphalt.
That's fine.
That makes it so much
Yeah,
easier.
we prefer to put the water in the shoulder anyway.
That's
So
good.
much easier. Appreciate
That's
it.
fine. I said, I don't know, but I'll ask. And you know how things start, and they just talk, and then it's like,
We appreciate you asking.
Correct.
Unless your surveyor mislocates the 6-inch line, and then you get the drawings back that say they want you to tear the road up. But we'll talk about that later.
right? So tell me again the capacity. You said 39? 37?
Up to 30.
Right now, we have Chelsea is 24 MGD, and Perrysburg is 15, and then we're adding another 15 at Perrysburg.
Wow.
Could you let the council know what the capacity of the withdrawal is at the Savannah River, so they understand ultimately where we are long-term?
Yeah,
We have withdrawal permit at 99 million gallons a
Right.
day right now.
I knew the number, I was
So-
letting everybody else know the
So
number.
from a source water perspective, we're very secure,
Yeah.
well into our master plan.
Yes.
So that number, as we all hear what's going on in the US with what's going on out west, where they're reaching their withdrawal permits, they're having to come back, we have a very, very strong withdrawal in the river.
Source water supply is not
Not
the
the
challenge
issue here.
right in this area. Yes. as it is in the southwest and west.
Okay, a couple more thoughts, and I'll move on. I'm happy to hear about your irrigation and the odd even days. I knew that was something you used to do in the past. I'll disagree. I think we can order in 2 days if people set their clocks properly. So maybe that's an education thing, because people don't know the difference between rotors, pop-ups, and drips, and they think I need to run my irrigation 10 minutes a day, every zone, every day. So
Well,
that's part of the education process too.
That's what he does every day for a living.
And one of the things we've learned is that people don't even know, that they don't even know that there's a set to a certain time. They're relying on the landscapers, which is why we met with the landscapers.
Yeah, I mean, if we could promote duration,
Yeah.
you know, to encourage deep rooting, I think that'd probably be a good answer, and look at your run times. But, and I will say this, I see your folks all over, they're always friendly and courteous and very professional, and the drivers are always safe. So thank you. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Questions? Actually, I was sandwiched between these two water and landscaping guys. And one of them stole a couple of my questions, but actually, your presentation was very thorough, and some of the questions that I had, not some, actually all of them, you did address that. And the key was just sitting back, being patient and listening, and then your questions would be answered, and you did answer mine, so.
Well, thank you.
I got the invitation in the mail today also for the expansion, groundbreaking.
Great.
And so I have it on my calendar.
Thank you. We're serving cookies.
What invitation?
Kevin, anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about we didn't cover this, but the decision to stop collecting the waste bills, just the reason behind that?
Are you talking about the
Software.
You no longer collecting our
Right,
garbage
right,
fees.
right.
I just had people ask about it, I
Question.
was just wondering, just kind of the thought process behind that, why that?
Because of
Well,
the software.
I think, well, yeah, that was part of it. I think it was one of those things that was, I think, transferred a long time ago, and ultimately, we looked at it as, we're not really in the garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the water and wastewater business, and that's not really something, I mean, I'm sure at the time, it was a convenience and a negotiation
I think
factor.
y'all threw Dean Moss under the bus on that, didn't you?
I wouldn't do that.
No, I mean, the history, let's be realistic, the history behind it was when the municipalities were giving up their utility, they were giving up the ability to bill a customer. And the only way to do that was to find another way to bill customers even for that. And the water authority said at the time that they would take that billing over. I went back and looked, and I didn't know that was not a
And they weren't
perpetuity
obligated to.
in that contract, because I went and looked at that aspect of it when I heard that that was happening. It was the right thing at the time, because it would not have made financial sense for the municipalities to keep a billing system up and running and get rid of their utility. So, and that's where the situation we're in now. So that's the history. I was around for the history, so why not talk about
Yeah,
this?
and ultimately, we just looked, I mean, it really gets confusing for some of the customers, because we were getting lots of customer calls related to garbage and pickup, which, it was just one of those things where we felt like, and we
get
did
enough-
the same thing with the city as well, so.
You get enough calls, right? You don't need any more.
Listen, I was just asking the, kind of the
Yeah.
decision behind it.
Yeah, sure.
And I guess the other thing is, how's Dave doing?
Oh, he's great, yeah.
Doing good?
He asks a lot of questions.
Good.
It's good.
From my perspective, the one thing that I want to add, and, you know, it's good to get an update from you
Yeah,
guys on a
well,
lot of the
well,
numbers.
I will share, Dave's been a great addition. He he's a very engaged member of the board, and, we appreciate his feedback and input, and, he's been a real nice addition, so.
Yeah, the piece that we
Everyone
need
tell the
from,
board members that.
say it again?
You always tell board members that.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah,
You know, the piece that we really need from the Water Authority, and we hope that you can look into next year's capital improvement plan again, is that, we're not growing residential, we're densifying, we're doing the infill, which is exactly easy for you because the pipes are already there and that. But what we really need is the economic development growth. We need help along Rebelt Road corridor. It has never been master planned, granted, the Port Royal owned the system years ago, they didn't do it. In the 20 years we've been merged with you, it hasn't been done. We need a master plan on sewer service from Rebelt Road, from the bridge to the town limits, so that we can develop that economically in the way we need. We've got large projects coming in that direction, road projects, and we need to get in front of that and have some shovel-ready projects. So as we keep fighting the state for the money, and the county is moving forward with a $50 million project on Reboat Road, We need to know what has to be put in that ground before those projects get moving. So that's something we need your help with. We really need a solid look at that from your engineering staff to take a look at Revolt Road, find out what's available and how we can serve each one of those parcels. Because the last thing we want to do is do this road project and then try to figure out how to put in sewer later. So it's something we need your help with.
Well, and I know, Joe, we meet with Van about every quarter, so it's probably time for our next quarterly
Yep.
coordination meeting, so we'll
He
get
he
that.
makes sure that I don't know about them. 'cause,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, we do too, yeah.
At their request.
At their request. I got it. I'm okay with it, but it's been a long time since I worked there. It was a
Yeah.
great career. I enjoyed it.
No,
at the
we'll
time.
get to something on the calendar, so.
All right, we appreciate
All
that.
right, thank you.
Anything else, anybody? Thank you so much for
Appreciate
coming in
it.
tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Well done.
Call us if you need anything.
Yep, we will. Van, updates to your council briefing from last week?
Just a few. The federal auction was held for the 2 boats that were remaining at the shrimp dock. The shrimp boat sold for $50 today, and will be moved shortly.
All right, it's sold, it's gone.
It's
Do we
gone.
know who sold it?
Nobody
Who sold it?
wanted the sailboat with no mast, so we are going to scuttle that boat. It's officially ours now.
Dynamite?
So that, because nobody wanted it, we now have the ability to dispose of it?
Correct.
Excellent.
And
So
we'll have a
anybody in
discussion.
the audience interested?
Sailboat with no mast?
$1?
It's on the
$1?
it's on the deck.
Do it yourself
Yeah.
project.
Sorry. Yeah, so yeah, we're pleased about that, and hopefully we're working on now towards demolition of the existing dock and the rebuild, so I've got some questions.
When will that boat go? When will it leave?
I can't remember the specific deadline. We took all of the oil and fuel off of the Having Faith, and so that's in 5 or 6 50-gallon drums, so we're dealing with that also. But yeah, they have a specific deadline that they have to move it, and I was talking to them today about how they intend to move it, so they got to deal with some of the outrigger issues in order to pull it through some of the clearances they're going to have to deal with on the way back.
Is that land craft still over there? The landing craft? that was
Yes.
up on- It hadn't left yet?
No,
That's the float first.
no, we're still waiting for the guy that left it there to come pick it up. I think y'all talk to him every once in a while, so.
But that's the last boat. We've got the sailboat and the shrimp boat, and that's the last.
And then we have
2 that's under.
2 underwater.
Yeah, we gotta pick those up. or
We gotta
do
pick
something.
them out, and the landing craft.
I just want to mention again that Dominion will start their tree work on March 1st. And the lift that we discussed is $45,000 in the process of being delivered, so.
Excellent.
All right, that's all I got on that.
Any questions, anything about the briefing? Anything else we need information
Well,
on?
just make sure we're communicating the schedule on the tree work, so nobody gets blindsided.
Yep, we've been posting that out. We'll keep that going.
Oh, and just also the repair work on the sidewalks is scheduled to start, I think, early next week.
Okay.
Joko will be doing repair work, and then we'll start the construction of the new sidewalks. And the RFP for the road resurfacing will go out the 1st of March. So,
The next item of business is, I will open it up for public comment for items that are on the agenda. I have a couple of paperwork in front of me here. Randomly, Barbara Berry?
So I read or listened to the council meeting that went over the tree ordinance with Noah talking, and I loved everything, and that y'all have the last call, so great job, wonderful. What I didn't know about is, what about the limbs of trees that have to be cut so that a garage can be put in? So the limbing up of trees, was that addressed? I just couldn't figure that part out. How much limbing up can be done without getting a fee or what? I'm sure your arborist will look at it and determine the health of the tree. But how much can actually be taken from a live oak? I mean, half of it, 3/4, or?
All right, so what I'm going to ask that we do here is, let's jot that question down. Let's get through all the questions, and when we get to that ordinance, we will ask for a briefing again, and we'll cover them that way.
Thank you.
That'd be probably the easiest way to do that. So thank you, Ms. Berg. Elizabeth Bergman.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. as always, I like to start out with great gratitude for your service, because it takes a lot of time and heart to be here, so thank you for that. And I've been waiting a really long time for this day to come. Your efforts, your commitment to strengthening the tree ordinance is really appreciated. That said, you're not going to be surprised I have some strong opinions, and I would like to share that I strongly urge you to alter it to be even more stringent. I have 4 points. One is that I noticed. The T5 zoning should not be exempt from any minimum. It's my feeling that even though T5 is meant to be denser or urban, there are plenty of examples of designs in our area that incorporate large trees quite beautifully. And I would, not knowing anything else to recommend, use at least the 3,000 square feet that matches the others. There's an example, I don't know if you consider Main Street zoning Boundary Street, but where the Starbucks is, you all know that they went to great effort to keep the trees that were there, and there is no detriment to the financial operations of that business if you look at the lines that are there consistently year after year. Am I on a 3-minute timer? Yep, I'm going to keep going. Provision around the duration of the protective fencing and signage. I had the thought that there should be a mandated removal of the fencing once the CO is granted. I didn't see anything that talked about the back end, because it goes in, and I've seen places around, lots around where maybe the project got stalled and the fencing just kind of gets overgrown and then it gets mowed, and feels like that might need to be addressed. Point 3 is I don't see any mention of how this ordinance is going to be applied to projects already in the pipeline, and I feel it's really imperative that it be effective for all projects that are submitted for permits on the date of approval of the permit, so that there's no grandfathering in of older projects. I don't know more nuance about how that all works, and I'm expecting that that is pie in the sky for me, but it's important for me to say that it shouldn't matter if our tree ordinance is going to take effect on March 1st or whatever today, the date is. Everybody who comes in with permits, no matter when they bought their property, ought to be subject to the current ordinance.
That's the way it is.
It is brilliant. Thank you.
That's what the moratorium, why we put the moratorium in place.
Awesome.
a couple weeks ago.
I missed that. Okay, so then the last piece is about the fees, and this is where I had a lot of, I'm going to indulge. You're riding this ride with me. I believe that the mitigation fees need to be a minimum of $1,000 per inch for specimen and $2,000 for landmark trees, and you might feel that's high or extreme, and I assure you that in my opinion anyway, and by the numbers I'm going to share, it's not. The context back in the fall when I was advocating for saving the 12th Street trees, we had a 43-inch oak. It was estimated, as I remember, to be about 200 years old, or the other one was around 200. So the numbers that I played with were 43 inches and 200 years, and I got to wondering what the economic value of that is. There's a 1992 book released by the American Forestry Association that says trees have significant monetary benefits: erosion control, wildlife shelter, air pollution, air conditioning, air pollution reduction. And they put $273 on that per tree. Any kind of tree, any age, they didn't say. So I thought, all right, well, let me just plug that into a compound interest calculator so I can get to the economic benefits, the monetary benefits of a 43-inch
Finish up.
200.
All right, I'm going to need you to finish up.
Okay.
I'm listening.
I have it in writing. I can give to you. The ones that I used, bankrate.com goes up to 200, so you get a value of almost $700,000 compounded over 200 years. That pales in comparison to the $21,500 current fee that you are proposing. But that's $1992. You fast forward to inflationary change, and there is a staggering $9,856,000 number of monetary benefits that we have lost for that 43-inch tree. Imagine wherever else. In benefits that this tree provides, it doesn't cost us anything to receive. So, skipping all the other stuff, the power, encouraging different behavior is the power you have in your hands. You're already doing it, and I want to encourage you to make it even more uncomfortable for applicants. The point of doing this is to not make it easy for the speed and the greed. Advocacy is often a courageous choice. So I believe it's a matter of will. Whether you're willing to withstand the pressure from the status quo and stand up so that we can steward what we're blessed to have here. I appreciate what you're all doing, and I believe that there needs to be more before this gets finalized. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wendy Czar?
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Good evening. I'm Wendy Zara, and I live at 1012 14th Street. I also, of course, would like to thank you for being willing to strengthen the tree ordinance, and I want to thank Noah for everything he's put into it and putting up with a few of us who are helping him. The first comment I'd like to make is a couple of weeks ago when you did, I think it was first reading or had the workshop, there was some comment about, well, we want to make sure that we don't say anything about protecting wildlife in this ordinance. And that sounded a little strange to me, being that I don't know how much this town would exist if we didn't protect wildlife enough to have shrimp here. So I think we should recognize that protecting wildlife for all of us is really important, whether the ordinance says it or not. I think any land use ordinance that the town has in some fashion is geared to protect wildlife, so I just had to get that off my chest. I think the two things that concern me the most about the final draft is in Table 28, it's going to be the same thing that Elizabeth said, in T5 Main Street where there's no minimum tree coverage. That's where Kent's Court is. Kent's Court is zoned T5 Main Street. There's a lot of T5 Main Street on Rebo Road, and I completely understand that there is a trade-off between needing to have high density, whether it's for commercial use or even multifamily use. But it really concerns me that there is no minimum requirement. So I'm hoping that you can rectify that before you tonight amend it somehow to do that. I also agree that the fines are not sufficient. I know they're radically more than the original ordinance, but they're still not enough. And if you could make the landmarks be 1,000 and the specimens be 500 instead of 250, I'm still not sure that's enough, but at least we're starting to get to some kind of a deterrence. And it would be nice, instead of calling them fees in lieu, if we had a sentence in there saying that actually we are trying to retain trees here. I mean, that's the point, not to collect your money and put it in a bank account. Our objective is to actually keep trees. Another thing about the minimum tree requirement is there needs to be a tree canopy, and you start taking out these big old trees and you lose that, and that's beneficial. That does save money because it's beneficial for cooling, it's beneficial for flooding, et cetera, et cetera. So my other little picky things I will skip, but I do appreciate very much all of your effort in upgrading, I'll say, the tree ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Next, Jesse White.
If I can, I printed out my comments, and I apologize that I'm just now handing them to you, but
Weren't
better
you
late
here at
than
the
never.
last meeting when we went over all this and corrected
Yes.
everything?
I wanted to make sure I had something in the record, and I gave a copy to Noah to make sure it is included in the record, just in case we find ourselves in another situation like over the summer. And I too want to just echo the comments that have already been made and commending you for the work that you're doing and the leadership role that you're playing in this region for setting a high bar and a protective tree standard. The comments that I just passed out are some edits directly into the draft, the final version, because there were changes that were made in between the last council meeting and that version that we were talking about, that council was talking about, and this version that our kind of working group didn't get a chance to hash out. And so I just wanted to in an abundance of caution, just share my thoughts and put them right there for y'all to see.
You
Just
said that's in the red, is that what
It
you added
is.
in?
It is in the
Comments?
red. And so a couple of the big things that I wanted to highlight were already highlighted by Wendy and Elizabeth, and that being the T5 exempt, no minimum canopy cover for the T5. Also understanding there's a balance between infill and redevelopment and trying to incentivize and create that urban center. I worry about larger lots that are zoned T5 Main Street, like the Kent's Corner example. And maybe there's a happy medium where the lot acreage size can be used, so smaller lots under a certain threshold maybe are more acceptable to be accepted from the minimum coverage, but for those larger lots, I think it's extremely important to have some minimum coverage requirement. I think we would all be aghast if we found ourselves in a situation where Kent's Court was saying, well, we don't have a minimum canopy coverage requirement, so we can cut them all down. I just worry that that is going to be a misleading piece of the code that will lead to problems down the road. And so I just wanted to really flag that. I too agree that fee can be higher. The development pressure in this region is a runaway train, and it's not going to stop. It's only going to increase, and it's up to the town and you all as council to set the bar high, and the development is going to follow. There's plenty of examples where it does. I also added back in just a couple really quick things, if I can. I saw that underbrushing was removed, and I understand the reasons. I tried to, again, find a compromise where instead of requiring a permit, just including some language that underbrushing be coordinated with the town. So kind of envisioning situations where people will come in with an idea of a development, and that will inspire a conversation and more of creative solutions for keeping an overall diversity of the landscape while protecting those really big trees is incredibly important. It's also important to have a diversity of species and range of species age to have a healthy landscape.
I'm going to need you to.
I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think those are the
I
main.
try really hard not to violate, to
No,
allow people
I
the time.
appreciate
Last
it.
Wednesday was the day, yeah.
I appreciate
this was a
your grace.
Workshop last Wednesday was when we were open conversation on all of this.
I understand. I tried to limit my comments just to the main changes that were not in the version at the workshop, so.
There's been no changes between last Wednesday and today, is that correct? This is the
Correct.
same version we reviewed last Wednesday, no
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah, I didn't know that was not made clear.
I
There was a
sent-
workshop
I
on
s-
this?
This language is what I sent to the group that worked on the ordinance with me on Monday or Tuesday of last week, after allowing council to review it over the weekend prior to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah.
Okay, well, I apologize. I have many projects that I'm following, so I did not realize there was a second workshop on the ordinance, but those are my suggestions, and I appreciate the
No,
time.
we appreciate.
Thank you.
I think I'm looking. No, I was looking for something specific.
Now, have you gone to the city of Beaufort and talked to them about the tree ordinance? Because I know we talked about that.
I
We
did.
talked about
I did.
Good.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
'cause we
I
wanna
made a
make
point
sure.
to.
Yeah, I don't want people going, oh, we're not going to parole, we're going to the city of Beaufort.
Yes, ma'am. I made a comment at their council meeting in January, so it is on the radar. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments on agenda items? Richard?
Richard Beasley from Willow Point, Mr. Mayor and council members. Be very brief. I support you, the Mr. Mayor, the council, and the staff for everything they've done to get this tree ordinance moving forward. It's much needed, and the town deserves it. The people deserve it. and I'm encouraged at this point. I support what the other people have said here. I'm not going to belabor any of that. The only comment I really have is a wording, what to me is confusing wording in paragraph 4, subparagraph B, existing development, and you may be reading something into it that I can't quite grasp, but it says applications for alterations to trees and individual developed lots require a survey from an arborist, but then it goes down further to say a tree survey should never be required on developed single, 2, and 3 family lots, which to me is just kind of like, okay, you got to do it here, but you don't have to do it here if it's developed. And to me, a developed lot is a house, already got a house on it or a couple of houses or whatever. So why do you say you have to have it in the first sentence, but you don't have to have it in the last sentence? I just think that, I don't know what the goal is. I think you should look at it, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Richard. We'll take a look at that. We were back and forth on that one. Anybody
And
else?
it's the tree survey, not the certified arborist analysis.
Correct, tree survey, yeah. Anybody else? All right, Noah, can you address when we pass this, who it's going to affect? As far as what Ms. Berry was saying there, is when it gets passed, when it's in effect, who does it affect?
Sure. Give me the podium.
Please.
Facebook.
Right, because I don't think, he can't be seen over there, right?
Yeah, just going on like everybody else has.
I think I understand what you're asking me to address. First, this would be adopted immediately with the passing of the ordinance, once that ordinance is signed. So this would go into effect immediately. This would take effect on any development in conceptual planning that has not yet submitted an application. If they have submitted a site development application since the moratorium was passed, that did not include their tree removal requests. Those tree removal requests were required to be held off until the passing of the ordinance.
That's what I thought, that's what I wanted to make sure. So any new projects or any projects that are in the pipe since the moratorium went in effect will all have to fall under this ordinance when it is approved and passed?
Correct.
Okay. I think that covers what we were trying to say. I think that covers what we were trying to say. The second was the limbing of the trees.
Sure. There is not a percentage or any kind of, I don't even know how to measure what the amount of tree is that's being pruned, but what I can address is, one, the pruning is being recommended by a certified arborist, and that arborist is only recommending pruning to accommodate the structure. If they believe that the tree would fail or would be aesthetically, if it would be ugly after the trimming, that is something that they would put in the report, that there would be serious lack of limb, or that, there's always details there. If they don't provide those details, we ask them to revise their report and provide us those details. And so, and it is a good question, where is that line? It got my wheels turning. I think that there needs to be a level of trust in staff, design review staff, appointed design review board members, and the arborists on both sides of the review process, to make sure that the trees remain viable after the limbing for
There should be a
development.
standard for that, like an ANSI standard.
Exactly, and we do have, that's a good point, Jerry. We do have a provision to follow ANSI standards in the ordinance, so.
But all of that still comes into effect with the fact that you're going to be asking them to show alternative designs to not do that, right?
Correct.
So that whole process falls into play after they've exhausted all alternative designs to meet your satisfaction in that aspect.
Yes.
Then the tree trimming would be the next piece, and it would have to be certified by an arborist.
Yes.
Okay. I want
Correct.
to make sure that I followed the whole procedure. It's not like, if the garage can be moved to the other side of the lot and not trim the tree,
Yeah.
that's the first thing you're going to be saying.
Right, yeah.
Flip-flop the house, flip-flop the way it's designed, that kind of stuff.
Correct.
They have to review, the first step is design something that doesn't affect the trees.
Yeah.
Then if you can't, for whatever reasons, have to express that, explain that, and then we go down that path.
Yeah, and there's
Okay. That's
coordination
the way I
there
read that.
between architect, arborist, our architect and arborist and so forth. So,
Okay.
I took, if you want me to just keep going through, I think I
Go.
took
Yes.
as many notes as I could on the comments. As far as the T5, I'll address that since there were multiple mentions of that. T5 doesn't, as proposed and as it is under our current ordinance, does not have a base minimum canopy coverage. That does not mean that there will automatically be a free-for-all clear cut of a T5 property. You know, there still is all of the standards in this new ordinance to retain existing tree coverage. You cannot remove a landmark tree from a T5 site without approval of town council, and so forth. And so, I think another note is that I don't know the number of parcels in town, but I do know that there are just about approximately 50 T5 Main Street parcels in town. They are located on South Paris Avenue around Town Hall, at the north side of downtown Paris Avenue, and then on Reboat Road and North Paris Avenue, spreading from the Sea Island Apartments to the Express Care Center on the corner of North Paris and Reboat. So that is a very condensed area of town that is meant for dense development, and the plans, historic plans over the last several decades in town have envisioned that kind of dense urban development in those areas.
And that's what Kent's Court is?
Correct. And conceptual plans for Kent's Court thus far have saved a staggering amount of large trees for the type of development they're currently proposing, so.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you,
Listen.
go ahead.
It's just a beautiful lot, but that canopy, and you'd hate to destroy something that's taken that long
Yeah.
to build and to make, and
Exactly.
we gotta protect it in any way we can, because.
And that's one of the reasons why when they showed up with their first conceptual plan, even under the old tree ordinance, we said, go away.
Go away.
Yeah.
Come back.
That what they do is they first propose a max yield site plan, which is as many units as possible, and then we tell them, no, that's not how this works in this town. And so they go back to the drawing board at that point.
Kevin, you had something?
Well, I was just gonna ask where they were in the process, if they had submitted, the Kent's Corner submitted a plan.
No, I have one conceptual plan that I've reviewed and given comments
So
on.
when they come through, they'll be controlled by this?
Correct.
If it passes.
And there are, I mean, there's I'm
But we
sorry.
gotta remember, the moratorium is in place. It doesn't make a difference. We
Yeah,
don't
but
pass it
that's-
tonight, moratorium stays in place.
It's not gonna be
At some
there
point,
forever.
we're gonna get pushed on that moratorium, we gotta pass this,
Right.
or rescind the moratorium, but the moratorium's in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one other thing about the T5. I wonder if there isn't a way, I was looking back at the older drafts, and honestly, you can see that in the older drafts. I don't know if the table didn't get dropped in. I wonder if there's a way we can change the wording, put something other than no minimum. And I'm not sure what that wording is. You know, it should be discussed, should be addressed on, design. Something to say there is a minimum, and we're gonna work with you on what that minimum is in that aspect. So that's what I'm thinking in that, and if we decide to move forward tonight, we may wanna put a motion that that brings back the final wording for that.
Compliance. Yeah, I agree. Something
Something in
Something
there,
better than that.
other than to just say no minimum. Because I understand that the rest of the ordinance still falls into play, and they still have all those requirements, but something. So let's think about that as we move through the season.
Yeah, we're crafting
Yeah,
there.
you don't want to just leave it no minimum,
Huh?
that would be.
My battery just died. Gotta plug it in.
There was a comment, Elizabeth made a comment about the protective fencing, which I
Yeah,
didn't
I made a comment
catch.
about
Wait,
that. Basically, the duration of the, orange construction fencing or whatever that we put out around the drip line to protect the tree, there's gotta be accountability to go back and remove it.
one of the
It
most-
doesn't get removed.
It
grows
happens
up
all
and-
over the place. She's absolutely
There's
right.
gotta be, yeah.
Your silt
That was a very good
fencing,
point.
your protective fencing doesn't get removed when the project's over. They stay up and they rot away for years.
And it gets torn up in lawnmowers all the time,
Yeah.
and tractors and just
Yeah.
whatever.
There's a couple places where that could be addressed. I mean, we have a blanket post-development inspection section, but that's more so about the replanting. I mean, it doesn't,
To me, I think it's part of the CO or final.
Property
citizens.
yeah.
Turnover, right.
Maybe we could address that. Mike, look at somewhere we could address that in that aspect of it, of what needs to be removed.
You could just add a 3, at conclusion of development, all tree mitigation.
All tree protection
shall be
shall be
removed.
removed.
Sure.
We can do it that way.
The issue is that, the issue with doing it at CO is that there are multi-building developments that have multiple COs. How do you determine when certain fencing needs to be removed? So that's, we can figure that out, though. We addressed projects already in the pipeline, I believe, fully. And there was a question about fee increase. So I'd just like to, sorry. So I'd just like to go over the mitigation and replanting costs based on the example for the landmark removal. So this would be an approved landmark removal by council action. So if a 30-inch live oak is removed, the mitigation fee at 30 inches, $500 an inch, would be $15,000. In addition, there is a replanting standard wherein you must replant one tree for every 5 inches of tree removed, which in this example that would come out to 6 live oaks that need to be replanted. If you remove the landmark, so six live oaks need to be replanted plus the $15,000 fee. If a landmark live oak that's 30 inches is removed without the proper approvals, 30 inches of live oak need to be replanted, which would come out to about 12 trees for a 2.5 caliper inch live oak, and the fee would be doubled to $30,000.
And what about the 2 and 5 year?
If the 2-year clear cutting, the 2-year deferral for removal of any portion of the trees on a property prior to a development application, that starts immediately. That's after completion of removal, you start a 2-year period of deferred development application, and that's one tree. That's all of the trees.
The whole property shut
The
down.
whole property is shut down for 2 years.
So if they take a tree down without a permit, those trees down without a permit, they get the fines, which is doubled.
Mm-hmm.
They have to replant on the property, and they can't do any development for 2 years.
Correct.
Okay. What is it roughly, what does a 2.5-inch live oak cost?
A 2.5-inch live oak
Yeah,
planted?
yeah. Does anybody have any idea?
$400.
Okay. I'm wondering what that was.
So an additional $2,500
Okay,
on top of that $15,000
okay,
if it's an approved removal.
okay.
And then Richard had a question about the tree survey exemption.
May I ask a question? May I go back?
Sure.
What was our our previous rate? What was the previous fee schedule?
The previous
I should
fee
say.
schedule was, divide those numbers by 5. So it was $50 for specimen tree, $100 for landmark tree, and it was not in tandem with the replanting requirement. It was one or the other.
One or the other.
So you either replanted or you paid.
Now you do both.
Yes.
So you replant and you pay.
But Jerry,
just-
didn't you have something last time that you were talking about, we should increase those fees even at the 500, 250 to 1,000 and 500? Didn't we talk about that?
I mentioned that. We talked about
Yeah,
that,
we
yeah.
did talk about
I
that.
wonder at what
Is there an
point.
exception for the single-family lot? Like if somebody's building a house?
Right, but a multi you'd want to, because what's 15,000 to somebody building a complex?
Well, that would be with the understanding that there's only one landmark tree being removed. I wish I had a site plan for any of the multifamily developments in the town in the last 15 years and how many landmark trees were removed for each of those, or single-family subdivisions that have popped up in the last 25 years. The rate of trees that are specimen or landmark size is substantial. So those numbers will add up quickly if they're requesting landmark removals. And will add up quickly for specimen removals at this price.
What you thinking, Jerry?
I'm just listening.
Okay. All right, I think that covered all the
Well, Richard had the question about the tree survey
Yes,
exemption
survey.
for single family. Basically,
if they are requesting the removal of a specimen or landmark tree, they still need the certified arborist report. The reason being that an arborist is going to visit the site, take the diameter of the tree. The only reason we would even require the tree survey for any other site is to confirm the diameter of the tree. We are requesting the tree survey, or requiring the tree survey and the certified arborist report for commercial sites. That includes multifamily sites or HOA-owned common spaces. This is strictly a homeowner wants to remove a tree. All they need to give us for specimen and landmark is an arborist report. If it's smaller than specimen, they just need to pay for the tree permit.
Okay. So this prevents a single homeowner from having to hire a survey company to come out there
Correct.
and do a tree survey on their whole property to deal with one tree.
Correct.
That's why that wording is in there.
Mhm.
Okay. I thought that's how we got to that point. Wanted to make sure that's what we meant on that, so. But we still have to have the arborist certify what the tree is and the diameter of the
Correct.
tree they're asking to be removed,
And the reason for removal.
and the reason for removal. Okay.
That is all.
Questions for Noah? Thank you, Noah.
Sure.
So,
Good job so far.
Yes,
yes, you,
please.
of course.
Oh, I forgot the mic was here.
You're an extension of Noah.
I just wanted to be, didn't want to be the only one on the advisory committee that didn't say anything tonight. So. But in answer to the homeowner's question about how much you can take off of a live oak, how much can you prune, you can take a lot. And I mean, that's, with, without getting, specific, you can take a lot off of a tree. So, good planning and seeing where the, checking out the additions or the, whatever the homeowner's doing on paper before and looking where the canopy is, and getting things moved and wiggled around a little bit is always the best idea. But, at the end of the day, they can take a lot off. Down 12th Street now with the tree that started all this, they're taking a lot off to fit those houses in that were approved to be there. But the tree, it's going to look a little shaky right away, but once they put the building up, it's kind of going to be all filled in. And the ANSI standards are very important for arborists to follow, but they're guidelines. So they're guidelines on how to prune a tree when you're just pruning a tree. When you have a specific goal of this building has to go here and some limbs have to come off, the standards kind of go off to the side and you just have the part of the standards that give you a mass of how much you should take off at any one time go off to the side, and you take off whatever needs to come off as long as the tree is not going to affect the health of the tree.
So you make good cuts, you make good decisions, you look, right.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And then, yeah, that's good.
Okay,
And
thank you.
fertilizer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item of business is second readings, and in its ordinance 2022-20, an ordinance to repeal and replace the entirety of Chapter 20, Trees and Code of Ordinance for the town of Port Royal. We have had a lot of conversation on this one.
Yeah, I'll just jump on in there. I don't know if we're ready. I'm not ready.
Well, let's, okay.
I don't know what we need to do, but
Well,
I look to
we
y'all.
have
Make a
three
motion to
choices.
postpone.
We have three choices. If you table it, it has to come back tonight. If you postpone it, you can put a timeline on it, say it has to come back next month, or you can leave it open, or we can move forward or deny it the way it's placed. I'm okay with it. The one we don't want to do is table, because then we just deal with it later this evening.
No, I don't want to do that.
That's right. So
we want to postpone it.
you would do, and I would request that you put a timeline on that postponement so that we know it's coming back and it must come back in that timeline.
That's fine, but we're kind of in a holding pattern right now on projects and everything, so that's fine.
Moratorium. yeah.
But we do have to watch that moratorium. Sooner or later, the moratorium is going to get challenged, and we're going to face ourselves in front of a court about that
I understand.
moratorium.
I just want to talk about it, and I just want to talk, I just got this document, so I look at that, but I want to talk about some of my notes here too.
Okay. Then I
I'm
would,
just not comfortable right tonight, just,
I would
go any
request,
further.
I would request then somebody do a motion to postpone, but part of that motion say that it has to be on next month's workshop, and that's
That's
the
fine.
final discussion point.
I
That's
can
the
live with that.
same thing we did back
I make a motion
in
that we
January.
postpone ordinance 2022-20 until our March meeting.
Second.
Second.
And it be placed on the agenda, the
Placed on-
workshop agenda in March. It was. Okay.
Let me ask a question. I guess I'm not sure
Motion,
who.
let's get a
I'm
second,
sorry.
and then go to discussion. Now go to discussion, go.
Okay. So these things we know we can address right off the bat. We're gonna go ahead and get them cleaned up. Is that what, can we do that? We all agree? I mean, is this something that, I don't wanna go by piece, but the obvious thing that you said about removing of the drip line. the
The
protective
fence,
fencing.
the fence,
Adding that.
that can,
Van
that's
suggested, right?
easily, I
Right,
think
just
that's-
those types of things. I'm good with that, but I just need some more discussion on the fee schedule. I need some more discussion on the T5 zoning.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Eric,
You heard those two?
So what do y'all want staff to come back with?
Yeah.
I mean, y'all gonna discuss it, or do y'all want us to bring you recommendations?
Well, I want to discuss it because I still want to. I understand we've strengthened fivefold. I get that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's strong enough, to be honest
Well,
with you.
here's the concern I have. I have no issue with that on commercial properties. What I am concerned about is single-family lot development and you imposing, particularly in these challenging times, a $40,000 or $50,000 mitigation fee upon construction costs.
Agreed.
Okay?
Agreed.
Yeah.
But the commercial is what bugs me. That's what sticks with
Could we
me.
separate it? Could we
Can it-
specify?
Can it be separated would be
Yeah,
that's
could
what
we
we
separate?
we need you to investigate. Can we have something
A
different for
separation between
commercial?
commercial versus private.
Yeah, commercial versus single-family residential.
Because, I mean, I've reviewed a lot of construction plans for a lot of these neighborhoods recently and noted that there were a lot of trees taken off a lot of lots. That if these folks had faced the same issues, I'm just saying.
I understand. I know where you're coming from, and I understand. But I wish we could just have. I wish we could.
A separation.
That's how I feel. And I'm strongly. I think we could. I think we could put a little bit more teeth in the fee schedule because I think still, when these commercial developers come in town, they don't care, and they just. I see it all the time.
As I stated last week as well, and I mean, this is about the third time that Jerry's brought this up, and, you know, and you did respond to, you know, when I mentioned it last week also. Yes, I recognize, I acknowledge that we have strengthened it, and we have more bite or more teeth in it also. I do agree also with you saying also when you're dealing with private residential resident versus a commercial, I can see that impact also. But not only that, you know, it's interesting, you know, all eyes are on us. And at the seminar that we just recently attended, I had a couple individuals, one from Hardyville in particularly, that says, you know, they've been watching us and they admire what we have done and what we are doing and wants to meet with us because they want to somewhat adopt what we're trying to do here in Port Royal. And of course, you know, my response was, you know, we have so local. And so forth. But my point with that is also eyes are on us, and they're I guess maybe the people just don't have the guts to address such a sensitive topic, and they admire Port Royal for taking the stance and saying we're going to do it and we're going to protect our, you know, interests here.
Well, if we're going to discuss, I'll discuss. I think the 2,000 and 1,000 was a bit too much. Okay, as suggested, look, you're always going to ask for a little bit more. I get it. I'd feel comfortable if we went 750 and 500.
He just took it. I was thinking 750, 500. That's what I was thinking.
I feel comfortable. And then you asked me what should staff bring back to us? Staff's
No.
got to bring
No,
back
it's just
that.
discussion. We're still discussing.
Staff's got to bring back that zoning where you're fixing the no minimum. You're going to reword craft that a little bit for us. So that's your homework there.
We're in the discussion before.
We're really in a discussion on a postponement, not on the motion. So we have to be cautious.
Yeah.
What
I'm
we're saying
saying,
here.
well, he asked what did he,
No, he
you
said there's a
what did-
motion on the floor, and we said we're in this discussion.
But
of
the
that motion.
discussion, this discussion is supposed to be refrained around what the motion is. The motion is to postpone,
Right.
not what the ordinance is.
Should be.
So I thought he said, all right,
Yeah,
yo, tell me what you want us to do. You either want us to
You're right,
postpone
he
it
did
one
ask,
way or
so
the
we're
other.
trying to.
Yeah, y'all vote on the
and-
motion, and then we'll-
Vote on the motion,
Yeah.
and
Okay, let's vote on the motion.
I think we should vote on the motion, and then
Call for it.
if the town manager has questions for council, he needs to ask it. So, we have a motion and a second, right? For postponement to next month's meeting with the tree ordinance being placed on the workshop agenda and then the main agenda.
On the agenda, bold letters.
Right. Any discussion on that motion?
None.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Now, do you have a question for council?
I think I've got my answer kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, but I will tell you, because Daryl, one of y'all came up in the lobby and I was talking to the Hardyville people, because they had approached me, the mayor and another council member, and said, hey, I'm really proud of y'all going and doing this. And City of Beaufort was standing there, and I said, are you gonna do it too? Because we need to make it seamless. So if we're gonna make Hardyville come into this and Bluffton, everybody needs to do the same thing. And so they're other communities in our area
Our
are
neighbors.
very impressed and really want to kind of follow us. So we told them, we kind of took a little bit from the Hilton Head.
One time you do it
We kind of
right.
added some, and, this is what we've come up with, and we want to make it, because they were like, well, do you want to make it seamless going from Beaufort to Port Royal? Well, yeah, that's the purpose. We don't want people to jump from place to place, stay in one place, because no matter where you go, it's going to be the same. So anyway, they are truly, truly looking at us. So I think we need to get it right the first time.
I got a couple of comments. Are we at discussion?
You're
Where are we at,
answering,
Mayor?
you're answering the town manager's question. I'm okay with that.
Boy, we really listened.
Where we should be doing this is next Wednesday, and
Probably.
we should be doing
Probably.
this at the workshop
Yeah,
in
probably.
March, is when we should be
This is a
doing it.
business
Agreed.
meeting, right?
That's why I'm
We're
just
good?
pausing. Yeah.
We're
This is a
good.
business meeting.
We're good? But there's nothing that says you can't sit down with staff anytime between now and March
Well, I know. And
to
that's-
talk about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I just, don't forget, that's available to all of us. All right, next item of business, first readings. Van,
Yes, an ordinance to authorize the town manager to convey excess real property to facilitate construction of sidewalks within the town, described as Beaufort County Tax District 110, map 10, parcel 0115, 1603 Madrid. This is approximately 150 feet on Madrid and 100.2 feet on 16th Street. I'll just pull the map up and give you an idea of where this is. Obviously, there's Madrid and the 16th, and it is in compliance with the sidewalk construction policy.
Perfect.
very good. Pleasure of council.
Move that we approve ordinance 2023-1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. More sidewalks.
All right, and then just real quickly, and I might turn this one over to Noah, ordinance 2023-2, an ordinance annexing to the town of Port Royal approximately 12.15 acres of real estate located in Beaufort County described as Beaufort County Tax District 100, map 31, parcel 36. This is property located at 450 Paris Island Gateway. If you recall, there was an annexation petition that was submitted for this parcel and one adjacent to it. We had some concerns about ownership issues relative to the rear parcels because of them being tied up with heirs. They've kind of bifurcated the application. They do have clear ownership and signed petitions for the front parcel that abuts Paris Island Gateway. So they've requested that we contemplate first reading. They are going back to the planning commission.
Correct, yes. Just for the sake of time for the applicant, we allowed first reading. They'll be back at planning commission next week for recommendation before second reading.
And just real quickly, I'll cover 2023-3, which is the designation of zoning. They've requested T4 Urban Center, and both the annexation is obviously well within the growth boundary of the town per the Northern Regional Plan, and the requested T4 Urban Center zoning is also in compliance with the future land use map.
Correct.
As anticipated. And there was a recommendation from the planning commission previously on both the annexation as well as the designation of zoning that they did.
And the zoning has not changed either.
The zoning request has not changed.
So both is still the same. But because it's a new application, in some ways, it's better that it goes back there. Got it.
Yeah, because the petition was separate. It was
Yep.
no longer a 100% petition of 3 properties. It was a.
Got it.
we needed to
I think we should go through.
Start the process over.
Back through the planning commission.
I agree.
I agree. So what's the pleasure of council? I think the motion should include, if somebody decides to move forward, I think the motion should include, we will not go to second reading until planning commission rules. So that way everybody knows that we're waiting on planning commission from that aspect. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion, we adopt ordinance 2023-2, but it has to go to the planning commission first.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'll talk about it briefly because I think when it first came up, I'm the only one voted against it. And the reason for that being is, we just, ever since our last retreat of last year, we talked about the goals of this council going forward and being focused on building commercial development and building our tax base through that. To put that in perspective, we have 14,000 citizens. We got a budget of $8 million. The city of Beaufort's got less than us. They got a budget of $28 million, and that's strictly because of commercial tax. That's exactly what that is. So when this comes up, like I said, we've already got 14,000 citizens that we have to service, and this is to be annexed into the town to build another multi-unit residential. I don't see anything in there that indicates any kind of commercial development with it, any mixed use. I haven't heard any kind of, talk about that. It's strictly going to be another multi-family unit. And just to let everyone know, we've already got about 1,200 units that have been approved, that are on the books, that they could put the shovel in the ground tomorrow. So you think about 1,200 units, 2 people in each one, that's another 2,800 people that could be built tomorrow, that have already been approved by previous councils and are in different phases of development. So due to those reasons, I'm inclined to vote against it again, as I did previously. So I just wanted to give you all my reasons.
Thank you.
What can be built in T4?
It's a host of mixed uses, including
could have
multifamily,
mixed
It could be multifamily.
retail, office, service uses. Again, this is a request for zoning and for annexation. I haven't reviewed any plans or any concepts for this property. I understand the applicant is a multifamily developer.
Okay.
We have not gone over the town's wishes for this property with the potential developer. There's also, we do have the ability to push back on certain aspects of development based on what our comprehensive plan lays out as our vision for this property in this area of town. So,
And like I said, that's just trying to be consistent. I believe it was even said earlier in this council meeting by up here that we're not growing residential at this time. So just to be consistent, again, that's why I'm voting against it. And I remember our last retreat, and we talked about the number of apartment complexes that we already have in Port Royal. So just like I said, trying to be consistent and focus on the goal of growing our business, our commercial tax base.
Very good. Any other discussion? I'm interested in hearing what the planning commission has to say on this one. Hearing nothing else, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? 4-1. Okay, Jerry, you were good.
Wasn't better.
Okay, 4-1.
Then the designation of zoning 2023-3.
We need a motion?
I make a motion, we adopt ordinance 2023-3.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Everything I just said.
Very good. Hearing none, hearing just one. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Same thing, 4-1. We have council actions.
Yeah, the first item is redevelopment commission recommendations. In your packets last week, there were a number of motions that were made and passed unanimously at their last meeting, and they're looking for an endorsement of those motions. I'll go over those real quickly. And obviously, some of them are very, may take a considerable amount of time to actually happen. However, they wanted to start the ball rolling. One of the first ones is motion to advocate for the removal of truck traffic from Rebo Road. Motion to encourage an engineered plan for Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority to address corridor concerns for water and sewer. Requesting engineering describing sewer facilities along the corridor to address redevelopment. Motion to encourage delay of the Edinburgh signal until construction of the Spine Road on the port redevelopment has been completed, if possible. Motion to request a budget be established to improve cosmetic improvements along the corridor, including facades, trees, signage, landscaping, and other similar efforts, activities. And they are also have asked council to create an overlay for the corridor and expedite the review process for project, as well as consider some zoning changes to allow height, address parking concerns, and density. And that's for the corridor that they've been officially charged with. Those were their motions.
Can we handle them as a single?
Yeah.
If we wanted to adopt, can you bring them up? Do you have them online? I think they are.
Could I have a concern about a couple?
Maybe. Hold on a second.
Can we put it on the,
Give me a second.
sure. I think they're in the packet. I know I read
Yeah,
them.
They are. My time.
Yeah.
I don't want y'all to watch how the sausage is made while I do this. There we go.
Okay. Right, they're on the screen, Council.
I have it up.
What's the thoughts?
Well, of course, the first one they talked about was the dump, restriction of truck traffic coming through here. It was dumped, Port Royal, because they didn't want them on 21 in Beaufort, so they dumped in here, so, that's gonna be interesting also, if we actually, support the banning of trucks, how they're gonna get through, period. If they-
All they're really asking for is for us, everybody to start thinking about it. It will never happen unless you ask. There are other potential crossings that Beaufort County may need eventually. And just how it was moved out of one municipality, we need to be thinking about that also.
That's,
And they
Yeah,
did
'cause
it
I'm
based on the bridge
Correct.
back then. They
Back
did
then,
the
because there
tonnage
was
of
a
the
weight
trucks going
restriction
across
also
that
on the bridge. And there was a form of weight restriction on the Beaufort
Right.
Bridge also.
So that's why they
That's been lifted.
rerouted it.
And they rerouted it, and it's dumping it all on our roads and
Yep.
in our neighborhoods right now also. Another one I had the concern also, I understand what, the delay of Spine Road also, but I've talked to several other residents also, and the 11th Street residents are still complaining about the speed that's coming through there, those speed, I won't even call them humps, whatever those things are.
One
They're
speed
just,
bump.
they're just ignoring that stuff also, and if you further delay any work on Spine Road.
what is it, where's the delay in the Spine Road? I don't see that. I'm sorry.
They don't want an Edinburgh signal
They don't want a
until,
signal at Edinburgh
they'll
until the Spine Road. They're
encourage-
encouraging the Spine Road to be built first.
Right, okay.
And then the Edinburgh signal.
Oh, okay.
It's the
but they
opposite
also
signal.
understand
Okay, the
that if
signal.
you have substantial development at the intersection of Edinburgh,
Okay, the
the
signal.
traffic study may warrant the signal
Right.
installed.
Okay, I
Right.
got you.
Yeah.
Okay, on
They
that,
just wanna
okay,
focus
right, I
on
just want to make sure
Spine
that we
Road
were
first.
not going to do
Right.
any delays of Spine
No,
Road
not-
also, because
right, this is
we
encour-
definitely want to,
They're encouraging
move that
Spine Road.
forward.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
To get some of that traffic from downtown and off of 11th Street as well. Okay,
I feel like, I'd like to take one,
at a time.
well, no, I'd like to take item one off of a full motion and almost switch that to a proclamation. Write up a proclamation or a resolution by council to vote on its own, so that it's on the books and we can send it to DOT in that fashion, where everything else here is working with the redevelopment commission and working on them. So I'd like to separate it in that way. I'd like to say, let's pull the truck issue out, let's do a formal proclamation or resolution by this council on that one item. But as far as these other items, that's really, in a lot of ways, this is a direction to staff on how we are asking them to work with the redevelopment commission, and we just do that by motion.
I can support that.
Does everybody understand what I'm saying there? Does that make sense to council? Staff, does it make sense to you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just want to make it a little more concrete.
Yeah.
I support
Well,
that.
they never gave a final deadline on how long they wanted that truck traffic, so I think that somebody should have a deadline.
I know you
it
will
probably
never
will
be able to
never.
put a definitive bid, I mean,
No,
because
not-
it is
not with
such,
DOT.
I'll be honest with you, this is kind of a pie in the sky request,
Yeah, it is, but
but
again, it keeps it reminds everybody what we're trying to do.
Yep.
And there's nothing else we can do now. There's no way to change it unless we can find some way to find about $100 million and build another bridge. You know, it's probably $200 million to build another bridge some way to be able to do something about that.
Well, there was money allocated years ago with Senator Waddell, and I don't know where all that money went, but Senator Waddell had the money to build that bridge from the air station across the Ladies Island. So some of our senators maybe should pop up and try to help us find some of that answers.
So with that, so we need a motion we need two motions. One is to move the truck traffic out and ask staff to prepare what you think is better, a resolution or proclamation. I think a resolution would be better, because that all of council has to vote on. A proclamation is just by the mayor. So I would rather it be the full council, so a resolution.
Sure.
Since it was your recommendation, go ahead and make the motion to approve.
If I make the motion, I gotta pass the gavel. So you want it?
Sure.
Yeah, I gotta give you the gavel. So there you are. This is, you gotta I gotta pass the gavel. I officially touched the gavel the first time in 3 years and so many months, because I don't touch the gavel. But, all right, so I make a motion that, that staff prepare a resolution on removing truck traffic from Reboat Road.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay, a motion to remove from this request, remove the traffic from Reboat Road, and you also stated something in addition to that.
Well, staff
I think
will.
we got it first and a second, y'all.
We got first and a second, we just need a vote.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Nice.
Thank you, put it back. Okay. Now, would somebody from council like to make a motion on items 2 through 5? Which would be that we are supporting their recommendations.
I'll enter a motion that we support the recommendations coming from the commission, redevelopment commission on items 2 through 5.
Second.
We
Excuse
have
me.
a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. I think I lost my agenda and all this, here it is. Okay, next item, Live Oak Park tree trimming?
Did we come, I think we ended up getting a final number for them. Do you remember what it was? 26,000. It's 26,000 to do the appropriate pruning and work that we want to do in the Live Oak Park, including stump removal.
Stump removal, trimming the trees.
Yes. Pruning,
Cleaning
yep.
up the trees, for
Like
dealing with the
deadwood
live
removal.
oak. And we'll have a certified arborist.
What was that number?
Absolutely.
Part of that.
26,000.
We have,
26,000.
That's right, we did talk
we
about
have the
that.
report, the certified arborist who wrote the report recommending all of the pruning and deadwooding and mossing in the room, and a certified arborist is leading the crew for the work.
Do you know about how many trees that was?
I believe so. There's a few that were recommendations for the school district. They've already taken care of those recommendations,
The school
as I
district
said in
took care of
Michael's
Doesn't have to
report.
match, it's like 5 to 7.
There are a few dead laurels, and then there's the tree that was either struck by lightning or where was wind damage.
The big live oak
Yeah.
by the, closer to the,
Mhm.
Western event post. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually two separate trunks, I think, the tree that was damaged, but one grew out of the other. And then just most of that $26,000 is in an existing tree fund from the past couple of years, collecting mitigation fees as well. So
I move that we approve the
We need a mo-
recommendation from staff.
Okay, so we've got motion and a second to approve recommendation from staff on Live Oak Park's tree trimming. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next is the boat landing IGA.
Yeah, we went back and forth with the county before the town would accept, or they're going to accept ownership of the boat landing. However, we wanted to make sure that that we did have the ability to close the boat landing from time to time, July 4th as example. So that added is included. So basically, I just need a motion of supporting the boat landing easement document provided by Beaufort County.
I make a motion supporting the boat landing document provided by.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Took us about a year and a half, but we're there.
So they have accepted ownership of it.
Yes.
Yes.
That means they've got maintenance of it.
Yes.
Yes. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It was unanimous. Appointment of Soloco. So, since last week, we've had this discussion and further review what the appointment for Soloco is. First of all, Soloco is a mandatory seat, town manager, mandatory seat, mayor, one council member, and we can also appoint an alternate in case either one of them can't be there, that the alternate is already approved to vote for council. So my recommendation is, we need a recommendation for a council member to sit on Soloco and an alternate who could be available to, if one of those two, me or whoever that person is, can't be there.
I recommend Daryl sit on Soloco.
Well, we have a motion to approve Darrell to sit on Soloco. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, we have a second. Are you being railroaded? Yes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, signify by saying aye. Even Darrell voted on himself. Now, Darrell, would you like to make a motion for an alternate?
Yes, I move that we select Jerry Ashmore.
I'll second
And we
that.
have a motion and a second to make Jerry Ashmore the alternate on Soloco. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Thank you. What a smooth running council we have here. The next appointment is Historic Preservation Committee. I'm going to say the name wrong. Janine Brown. I see the A and I want to go Janie.
Nope.
Janine Brown.
I make a motion that we adopt Janine Brown as our new member of the Historic Preservation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. President's Day, Monday, February 20th.
Yeah, we discovered that this was not included in the holiday schedule. And so staff called me a big meanie and told me I should ask y'all if y'all would consider adding it to the the holiday schedule.
Only because I'm off, I'm going to make that motion.
No, I was going to pass the gavel. I make a motion that all of staff but Ben gets the day off. I'm sorry.
I worked the last holiday.
Right,
so-
exactly.
And I worked July 4th and I worked.
So you need a motion to approve February 20th, President's Day, as an official holiday? Who would like to make that
I'll
motion?
make that motion.
Who would like to second
Second.
it? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Only because I'm off that day.
Important dates, sir.
Tuesday, February 21st, redevelopment commission at Port Royal Town Hall at 4:30 p.m. Friday, February 24th, and Saturday, February 25th is the our annual retreat. We will be stopping at 5 p.m. on Friday.
For
And hopefully-
what? For what reason?
So you all can judge the wing
Judge
contest.
the wings.
And then we'll be there Saturday morning. And then also on
That's
Friday,
right.
as
We
mentioned,
proved that.
February 24th and 25th is the Bands, Brews, and Barbecue on Pierce Avenue.
Hey, Dan, what time are we going to start on Friday and Saturday?
8:30.
8:30 both days?
I'll open it up to any public comment on any item not on agenda tonight.
I was going to say something, a date.
What date?
I was
You
going to
got-
add a date.
You got a date? Add a date.
And so, February 19th is the YMCA's Boots and Bling. It's at Shell Ring. It's one of their biggest fundraisers of the year. And now that everybody's got Monday off, hopefully I can see y'all up there on Sunday, because it is on a Sunday. It's
What's the time?
5 o'clock. And so it's,
I'll be at home thinking about presidents. I'm
there you
sorry.
go, yeah, I mean, so.
You don't think
Yeah,
about
so it's
Bling,
Boots and,
Friday,
Boots and Bling.
19th.
Boots and Bling.
It's Sunday, February 19th, a Sunday, so.
Tuesday, February
That's like
14th is Valentine's Day, so
cowboy
don't forget your
boots.
sweeties out there, right?
So.
Any other council comment before I open it up to the public? I'm sorry, I skipped a step there.
We all of us, I think, had a real good week in
Thank you.
Columbia this week. And I know everybody will want to kind of speak to it, but one thing I was most proud of was we were all there, we were all interacting, we were all collaborating with one another, not just us, but councils within Beaufort County and also our state delegation. Port Royal is one of 18 municipalities that made the honor roll. That means that everybody up here, sitting council members, are graduates of the Municipal Association, MEO Institute. So I think that's quite an accomplishment. I learned so much just about what's going on, about squat trucks and fentanyl trafficking laws. It just kind of opened my eyes. Educational updates. It was a good opportunity. I learned a lot, and I appreciate y'all going. I appreciate the opportunity to go.
It was a
great.
very good event. Glad we were all able to be there. There was a lot of good conversation and discussion. You're absolutely right, Jerry. It was a good event in that way. Alice was here, but I guess she had to leave.
Oh, and yeah, they're mentioning that they're contemplating a short-term rental ban.
Ban. So the State House is looking at taking more home rule away from the locals and banning the ability, and there's not a single municipality in the state that wants to ban short-term rentals, but the State House wants to put a law in place that prevents us from banning it. It's just digging, the biggest concern that the municipalities have, mayors, all of councils, is that that's further digging into the home rule aspect. Why are you even doing this? So we may be asking at some point for all of our citizens to reach out to your senators and your congressmen to say, allow our local officials to deal with local issues.
And I think one of the compliments that we got while we were up there is how well our council works together, that a lot of the councils fight among themselves. And I mean, it was like really crazy the way it was like digging into each other.
Literally.
And they were like, y'all sit together in the meetings, you agree, I mean.
Yeah, there was some surprising that, there were people that were surprised that we always wanted to sit and eat together and talk together and, take the breaks together, and they were just like all going to different sides.
Yeah,
It's all
like
good.
they couldn't
It's all
even
good.
get together with anything.
It's all good.
But yeah, I thought it was great.
It was a good event. Got anything else from council? If not, Trish, you're anxiously waiting to address
No,
us.
sorry, I thought you had mentioned it earlier.
I did,
So
I
I
skipped this
apologize. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm just up here to ask you if there was any way to put on the agenda an update on the port. I speak for several town members that are just eagerly trying to find out from council. I look every week to see on the agenda, is there going to be an update? Is Safe Harbor going to come and let us know what they're doing? And so I'd greatly appreciate if you all could make that happen.
Sure.
Thank you.
What we can do for certain is we have a staff update with Safe Harbor Monday.
Yes, Monday.
Let's add that to the agenda, that our citizens are asking for an update. So we will add that to the staff. Council member is you this month? Who's?
Just let me know. I was
Jerry?
thanks for bringing that up, because when we, doing that deal, that was one thing that was mentioned, is that we will be updated throughout it, and I've, kind of been a little disappointed on the lack of public updating, so.
We've had
We've had some recent personnel changes, which I think has lent itself to that.
So we will push that issue. So there is a meeting on Monday. The way that meetings happen, they are monthly, just so that everybody understands, is it's staff, myself, and every month a different council member sits into that meeting. This month is Jerry. So Jerry will be present at that meeting. I like to try to make everyone to keep the continuity of the process moving forward. But rather than having to make them public meetings and open them up, in some aspects, it's just one other council member. Because we get ourselves in trouble.
Yeah, but you're one a quarter, or
Yeah, something.
one every 6 months. Or
Trust me, we are asking for the conceptual plan. I don't know how many times.
Every time that anybody has spoken to them, it's the request.
So we will ask again and ask them to come and present the conceptual plan.
Even those kind of updates, letting us know how much you guys are asking them to come do stuff. I mean, that.
There's a safe harbor paragraph in your briefing every single month, and y'all are more than welcome to share it with whoever you want.
We'll start reading it out.
Yeah.
Let's start reading out the safe harbor brief. What we can tell you is they are filing some small permits for some demolition, some work. There is activity going on there. They brought in this very large crane. That crane will remain here so that they can lift boats out of the water and do some work. A lot of discussion back and forth, which buildings are coming down. I can't say that I could tell you right now which buildings are coming down, because it seems like it changes pretty often. There is activity on the Bluff neighborhood, but it's such an early conceptual that, we've asked them for permission to share it, and I think they're supposed to give us that on Monday, of how much we can share about what they're planning on doing in the Bluff neighborhood. I don't think, the property swap on the park is complete. There's no issues with that. Is there anything else that we could, I think that kind of the things that are happening right now.
Now we're talking about the property adjacent to the shrimp dock and how that's all going to play out.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation with Safe Harbor on what we call Lot G, which is between Shellring and Fish Camp, right at where the dock is. We want information on what's going to happen there. Now that with the last boat's gone, we can get rid of that. We have money available to start that work, and we need to understand what's going to happen with that property, and there's a lot of conversation on that as well. So, okay?
Great.
Richard?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, guys, my knees are about shot. But just to extend that conversation you have about I guess, Safe Harbor being more transparent. They are with you, but you haven't been able to share it with us. That now that you will be able to. A couple of years ago, when we started, we started the new website and whatever, one of the things that was behind that was being able to, when we have agendas, to be able to put the backup material in the agendas rather than just the agenda items. For instance, it's not being done. And
It's not?
No, and just to let you understand, Joe, the tree ordinance was not on the agenda for last week's workshop.
It was not?
It was not.
We discussed it.
It was under the
Yeah.
review
Yeah.
agenda.
Oh, it was under
Review
the
agenda.
section of reviewing the next week's agenda.
Yeah. It was not, it wasn't even a
Okay.
legal, it wasn't a legal meeting, I don't know.
We apologize, we're
But-
giving you
but-
another month to
yeah.
deal with this,
Yeah.
but we'll make some corrections, because we
Yeah.
did correct the way we post our agendas so that the backup would be there. We'll figure out why it's not
Okay,
working.
yeah, but I mean, it's so easy to do. I mean,
Yeah.
just a massive PDF, someone wants to push a button. I mean, I have, every time I want to get a copy of the tree addenda, I talk to Brooke or whoever, and they send it to me, but it's not readily available, so
we'll figure it
let's
out.
get it on the agendas, please, and please, let's get the agendas out a week ahead of time. I mean, they're coming out 2 days ahead of time right now, not a week ahead, and I don't know what the law is on that, but I think.
24 hours, actually.
Is it 24 hours?
24 hours is the law.
Wow. But anyway, let's see what we can do to inform the public a little better. Thank you.
I was surprised, I will make the statement here, this one, not to you, Richard, but, and I don't know
Thank
if
you,
other
Richard.
council, I was surprised at how many councils across the state of South Carolina allow no comment during their council meetings.
No public.
None whatsoever during their council
I heard it
meetings.
and I couldn't believe it, but it's true.
I was surprised at how many,
This is a
and they
business
have
meeting.
no intentions of changing that rule. And I was surprised at that. Just
That
something
was
that
a
you.
lot of those that were
What?
fighting among themselves.
Just one of those kind of things that you learn.
I'll say, that we also, they kept talking about civility. Daryl's wearing a civility pin. In the times that we live, it's getting a little weird out there. So that's one of the reasons is the horror stories that we heard. And I'm very happy and proud of our council, our constituents. We don't have any of that. We're very respectful here. We're very civil with each other. But yeah, some of these other councils, people are fighting in the rooms, the cops are throwing people out. Some of the stories of what they deal with are horrible.
chasing
Yeah,
council members
people are
down,
chasing them out into
threatening
the streets, like blocking their cars in so they can't leave. Some of these stories of council
And
meetings.
this is in
is-
South Carolina.
Right, and these are not big
Crazy, so-
cities either. These are just like us councils.
So,
that are-
thank y'all.
Yes, yes. And he likes it nice and easy, stand in the back of the room and then just end the day and that's it, right? I like a motion to adjourn.
Greg had it. Greg had it.
Greg's, no, sorry, thank you.
Did you read the news article about the two councilmen in New Jersey?
Yes.
Yep, exactly.
And it was talked about up there about the council members in New Jersey, 2 council members, yes.
Or Savannah, Georgia.
And they still don't know for certain whether it's references to council, but come on, 2 in the same council?
Right.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, everybody.